is there a tension between a living wage, and maybe you could speak to what a living wage means, and the workers owning all of the profit of the company? Sort of this kind of spectrum. No, I guess the spectrum is from like no minimum wage, the lowest possible thing you could pay to a worker. Then somewhere in that spectrum is a living wage, and then at the top is like all of the profit from the company is owned by the workers,
So,
split to the workers.
I mean, I think that any society is going to have to make distributional choices. You could imagine a variety of capitalism in which workers are paid quite little, but there's extremely high taxation and there's redistribution after the fact. You could imagine a system in which there's less taxation after the fact, but there's more guarantees and regulations on how much people are paid before the fact. In my vision of a social society, there would be similar to the way that unions work, and in my example, the centralized bargaining unions would work, that bargain at the sectoral level and not just at the enterprise level like our unions do today. There could be benchmarks set for different occupations or wages. And the reason why you would want to benchmark at a worker-controlled firm is that you don't want workers self-exploiting themselves in order to gobble up market share, or because you don't want them collectively deciding, okay, we're going to invest in this longer-term time horizon and outcompete other people that way. So you might say, okay, if you do this sort of clerical work, you have to be paid the equivalent of $15 an hour. That's a minimum. But on top of that, you get dividends from excess profits. And I think it would also have to be combined with public financing for expansions and for development, which could be done in quite a competitive way. So you could have a variety of banks, in my vision, state-owned banks. But how would they decide who to invest in and who to not invest in, who to give a loan for expansion to and who not to? Because you don't want it to be like, oh, I'm going to invest in my nephew's firm and not this other firm, or I'm going to invest in this guy's firm because he's an Italian, but not this guy's firm because he's Albanian, or whatever else. Just make it rational at the level of their goal is just like any other investment person at a bank today, to maintain a certain risk profile and to have an interest yield, and decide to invest on that basis. So if there's a huge automotive firm that has been in business for 50 years that needs a little operating cash, like, yeah, they could get their $50 million at 3% loan. If you have some crazy blue sky idea and you manage to get it to that point, like maybe you and your friends would get it at 12% or something close to what a VC would offer today. So I only kind of go into these details not because to say that a system doesn't have to in advance map out all the different possibilities, but I think it does have to be willing to accept a lot of things that we know today. I can't give you a version of socialism that's everything's going to be fine, we're going to live harmoniously, and we won't have these sort of tensions, and you could hunt in the evening and fish in the afternoon and write criticism, whatever else. I do hope that there's horizons beyond this that we could aspire to. I do have those visions, but for now, I think our task as socialists is to imagine 5 minutes after midnight, like what can we do right away within our lifetime vision.
So that means through some level of central planning, reallocating resources to the workers.
So I think the primary mechanism in this private sector under socialism would be a market mechanism, firms competing against each other to expand, connected to a system of public financing. But even at that level, the individual bankers and public banks and so on would be operating based on their own rationality. And the state would certainly shape investment decisions, but maybe no more than they do in a lot of capitalist systems. So the state might already today in a lot of countries decide, we want to invest in green technology. So it's going to be favorable rates for people or tax credits for people investing in green technology. So the state already shapes investment. I think what should be centrally planned, and this is where I'm proud to sound like an old school socialist, is things like healthcare, things like transit, things like our natural monopolies of lots of types. I think can be done very well through planning, and we already have plenty of examples. But a lot of this society, I think, would be the private sphere of worker controlled cooperatives competing against each other, weak firms failing, successful firms expanding.